Yeah, hi guys, good morning. In today's session, we'll
Good morning.
discuss. Yeah, in today's session, we'll discuss about data sources, meta arguments, as well as Terraform state lockings. I mean, S3 backends as well as state lockings. Okay, so let me share my screen. So this will be session 4 of Terraform. Okay, already we have completed 3 sessions, right? So this will be fourth session, and from today we'll be working on AWS services. All these days we were executing that local file and random file, right? So from today we'll try to work on some AWS services. Okay, hope you can see my screen.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, right. So we'll take the same example, previous example itself. Okay, let me delete my state file. I want everything to be clear up. I want to clear this everything. Okay, so yeah, so we have cleared everything. I mean, as of now, this is just an empty repository. Okay, so let me write a basic Terraform template to create the local file. Okay, this will be our provider type, that is local underscore file, and then this will be our name. This can be anything, right? And then we'll be passing two attributes. One is file name, which is mandatory, okay? And one will be content allocats. Okay, so if I'll execute this, now here we can see. Okay, so Terraform has installed the plugin of version 2.4.0. Okay, so this is the latest version available. I mean, this version relates to the provider version. Okay, so if I'll go to registry, Terraform registry. Okay, and if I'll click here, okay, if I'll search for local, okay, so Terraform is trying to download our registry from our plugin from Terraform registry, right? So here if you see, so the current latest version is 2.4.0. So we are also using, I mean, it is trying to download the default or the latest version. Okay, so if you see the I mean the different versions, here we have different versions, version 2.3.0, 2.2.3, and all other versions as well. So whenever I'm trying to execute my Terraform init, what Terraform is doing, Terraform is trying to download the default version or the latest version. So there might be some cases when we don't want to install the latest versions. For example, this file I'm executing as of today, that is 13th of March 2023, and this is working fine with version 2.4.0. For example, after 1 year, okay, I'm trying to execute the same file. At that point of time, what Terraform will do, Terraform will try to download the latest version. That might be 3.4.0. Okay, so there might be a chance that our template will not work as expected. There might be issues with the compatibility. Okay, so there might be issues with the compatibility and our output will not be as expected. So in such kind of cases, what I want to do is I want Terraform to use a specific provider. Ante మనం ఏదైతే ప్రొవైడర్ ఇస్తున్నామో that version should be downloaded. It should not look for the latest version of plugin. Okay, for example, I want to use 2.3.0 version. Okay, just click on 2.3.0 and click on use provider so that we can get a Terraform block. Okay, so this is our Terraform block. So let me copy this. Let me add this in my configuration file. Okay, here is Terraform block, and these are the required providers, and the provider name is local. Okay, and the source means from which registry it is trying to download, that is HashiCorp/local. and the version what it needs to look for is 2.3.0. Okay, so let me save this. And before executing Terraform init, let me delete the existing provider. Okay, let me delete the latest one. Okay, so I have deleted the .terraform directory. Okay, and if I'll do clear and Terraform init, so what will happen? If you'll see, Terraform has downloaded the version 2.3.0. Okay, so this is how we can restrict our providers, which version provider needs to be downloaded. That's how we can define in our configuration file. Guys, understood? This is very important as part of interview as well. Just a simple block of Terraform, the required providers, which provider, what should be the source, and what will be the version. Okay, if you want to download version 2. For example 2.2.3, ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే ఉన్నాయో that's only what we need to take. For example, here we can see 2.3.3. if suppose we are passing as 2.2.4, then that will throw error because there is no such plugin available in the Terraform registry. Okay, so this is how we can restrict our providers with the specific versions. Okay, yes or no?
Yes, bro.
బ్రో
Yeah,
అది మనం 2.4 అది లేటెస్ట్ది రిమూవ్ చేయకుండా చేయలేమా?
upgrade చేయాలి. For example, let me show you that. Okay, let me copy this in our notes and then let me execute this. For example 2.3 ఉంది కదా, so if I want to rename this to 2.2.3, okay, so what I will do, I will just 2.3, right? So once this is saved, if I'm executing Terraform init, it is asking me to upgrade. Okay, so now let me use Terraform init upgrade. So what this is trying to do, this is trying to download the version 2.2.3. okay, but again if you scroll down this, here you can find two versions of plugins, 2.2.3 and 2.3.0.
అప్పుడు
as of now,
కదన్న
sorry,
ఓల్డర్ వర్షన్ డిలీట్ అయిపోయి ఉంటుంది కదా 2.3.0.
delete అవ్వదు, that అది ఆల్రెడీ డౌన్లోడ్ అయిపోయింది ఫస్ట్ టైం. ఓకే,
అంటే టెరాఫామ్ యూజ్ చేసేది ఇమ్యూటెడ్ వర్షన్ కదా ఫార్మాట్.
అది యూస్ కేసెస్ లో, నీ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ కి నువ్వు దానికి ప్లగిన్స్ లో తీసుకొస్తావంటే వర్కౌట్ అవ్వదు. ఇమ్యూటబుల్ ఆర్కిటెక్చర్ ఈస్ డిఫరెంట్ కేస్ టు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవర్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ ఫైల్స్. ఓకే, దిస్ ఈస్ సంథింగ్ రిలేటెడ్ టు ప్లగిన్స్. ఇక్కడ నువ్వు కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ ఏం చేస్తలేవు, యూఆర్ నాట్ క్రియేటింగ్ ద ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్. Mutable and immutable will get executed at the point of creation of infrastructures or modifying or deletions. Here we are telling Terraform that use this specific version of provider to create this file. Okay,
ఓకే
ఏం పేరు మన పవన్?
ఓకే బ్రో.
Okay, so now if you see this configuration, for example equal to means to download the specific version. Similarly, we have other versions as well. For example, if you don't want to use 2.3.0, so I'm using exclamatory equal to, means not equal to 2.30, means Terraform should not use the version 2.3.0. it can download any other version. For example, let me delete this. ఇది ఎందుకు డిలీట్ చేస్తున్నా అంటే జస్ట్ ఒకటే ప్రొవైడర్ ఉండాలి నా దగ్గర అని. ఓకే, సో దట్ ఐ కెన్ షోకేస్ దట్. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నాట్ ఈక్వల్ టు. ఓకే, so what I'm telling Terraform to download the source, but the version should not be equal to 2.2.3, means apart from that you can download anything. Okay, in it, what Terraform is doing, Terraform is trying to download the version 2.4.0. it is not downloading the version 2.2.3. it can download any version apart from 2.2.3. so similarly, we have Okay, less than means 2.3.0, less than 2.3.0 means version below 2.3.0. It can download any version which is less than 2.3.0. Okay, similarly greater than 2.3.0 means any version which is greater than 2.3.0 means 2.4.0 can be possible or 2.3.1 can be possible. Okay,
అన్న అది ఎట్లయినా లేటెస్ట్ వర్షన్ తీసుకుంటది కాబట్టి ఇవన్నీ పనికిరావు కదా అన్న ఎట్లయినా.
ఎందుకు పనికిరావు? అది లేటెస్ట్ నువ్వు తీసుకోకూడదు అనుకుంటేనే కదా ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నది. వర్జన్ కన్స్టెంట్స్ అనేది నువ్వు లేటెస్ట్ యూజ్ చేయకూడదు అనుకున్నప్పుడే ఇవి యూజ్ చేయాలి నువ్వు. ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నాట్ ఈక్వల్ టు నేనేం చేస్తున్నా, నాట్ ఈక్వల్ టు 2.4.0 పెడతా. ఓకే, నాట్ ఈక్వల్ టు 2.4.0 పెట్టినా, రైట్? ఈక్వల్ టు టెరాఫార్మ్ అప్గ్రేడ్. ఇక్కడ చూడు ఏమవుతుంది, ఇన్స్టెడ్ ఆఫ్ 2.4.0 ఇట్ ఈస్ డౌన్లోడింగ్ 2.3.0. పనికి రావు అని అనుకోకు, నువ్వు పాస్ చేయకుంటే ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ నాట్ పాసింగ్ దిస్ బ్లాక్ దెన్ టెరాఫార్మ్ బై డిఫాల్ట్ ఇట్ విల్ డౌన్లోడ్ ద లేటెస్ట్ వర్జన్. If you want to use any specific version, then this is how we can pass. Even in this case, we can pass multiple arguments as well. Ante not equal to 2.4.0, comma less than 2.3.0, for example. Okay, 2.3.0. Okay, so I am passing two conditions. It should not be equal to 2.4.0 and it should be less than 2.3.0. Okay, in this case, let us see which version this will download. It is downloading 2.2.3. Okay, endukante less than 2.3.0 both are matching. 2.2.3 it is downloading. Yeah, okay. So similar to this, if you want to use any specific version or higher version, in this case we can use tilde symbol, okay, and greater than. Means either it can download 2.3.0 or higher version. That's up to Terraform. Okay, so try to execute all this, then you'll get more clarity on this. Okay, hope this is clear.
Yes, bro.
Okay. So let me remove this block for now. We don't require this block. Already we have completed, right? Okay. So for example, so apart from resource blocks, we have other blocks as well. What we have seen just now is Terraform block. Okay. Similar to resource block, we have one more block called data blocks. Okay. Now let me copy these data blocks. We have something called data sources in Terraform. Okay, so this is also very important, guys, data sources. Okay, so for example, why do we need data sources? For example, ankundam. Okay, so as of now we can see, so let me execute my file. Okay, let me execute my file Terraform apply. So what's happening, it is trying to create one file called pets.txt. Okay, so we have other tools as well in the market. We have other tools to create files. It can be either Ansible, Salt, Puppet, Chef, or VA editor, Notepad++, or text document or manual interventions. Okay, for example, I have created one more file by using some external tools. Okay, dots.txt. Okay, okay, now we have got one more file in our current directory that has been created manually, that is called as docs.txt, and the content is I love docs. Okay, so data sources are used to read the infrastructure. The basic definition for data sources is to read the content of the infrastructure. Okay, so For example, if we have created one, I mean, there is one file called docs.txt, and I just want to read the content of this file, and this content should be replicated in my pets.txt. Okay, in this case, what we need to do is same data block, and then the block name, which will be, I mean, the provider name, which will be local provider. Okay, and then the file name doc. Okay, and then file name will be .docs.txt. Okay, or else, yeah. So file name is docs.txt. Okay, so similar to resource blocks, we have other blocks, that is Terraform block as well as data block, and that whatever we are describing in data block is only to read the content. We cannot, I mean, this part of section can be used only to read the content. Ante, for example, whatever content we have in the file called docs.txt should be read by our pets.txt. Okay, so in this case, what I will do, I will use this as a variable. Let me copy this. Data dot local underscore file dot doc dot content. Basically, the content of pest.txt should be the content of doc.txt. Okay, so let me save this, and if I'll execute Terraform, apply again, if I'll do yes, what will happen? One pest.txt has been created. If I'll click this, the content will be allow docs. The content is similar to what we have seen in docs.txt, because that's what I wanted to store as in my content. Okay, so data blocks are very important. This is only to read the content of the file. We cannot create the infrastructure. With the help of resource blocks, what we are doing, we are trying to create, delete, and modify. But whereas with the help of data blocks, we can only read the content of the infrastructure. Okay. Yes or no?
Okay.
Okay, Anna.
One second, please. Okay, so if we are using data blocks, the purpose of data blocks is to read the content of the file. Okay, so this is how I can map my pets.resource configuration and data blocks. Okay, we have the difference as well. So basically, resource blocks starts with a keyword called resources. Resource blocks are used to create, modify, and delete the infrastructure, whereas data source will start with a keyword data, and data sources are used to read the infrastructure. This is only to read the infrastructure. ఇది గుర్తు పెట్టుకోండి. Okay, understood?
Yes, bro.
Okay,
Yes,
and
Anna.
then, yeah. Okay, and then we have something called meta arguments. Okay, meta arguments, basically what we are trying to do, I mean, from day one, I'm trying to create one file called local, I mean, pets.txt. Okay, let me remove this data block as well, as of now not required for us. Okay, so I'm trying to create one file called pets.txt. Okay, so for example, if I want to create multiple files, okay, I want to create 3 files. Okay, I want to create 3 files. In this case, what can be done? As of now, I am trying to create only one file. So I want to create 3 files with pets.txt. So in this case, we have something called meta arguments. So basically, meta arguments are used if you want to create multiple resources. Okay, and the meta arguments can be used within any resource block. అంటే ఈ resource block ఉంది కదా దీని లోపల యూస్ చేయాలి. Okay, similarly we have seen 2 meta arguments in our previous sessions, that is depends on for the explicit and implicit behavior, and life cycle rules that are ignore changes, create before destroy, and one more thing what we have, ignore changes. Yeah, so already we have seen 2 of these meta arguments. Similarly we have one more meta argument, that is count. Okay, for example, if you want to create 3 files, okay, I will use this as count equal to 3. Okay, so I will use the count as the 3. This is nothing but our meta argument. Okay, so if I use Terraform apply, then let's see what will happen. Yes, see here, if you'll see, creating my pet 1, my pet 2, okay, and my pet 0. So Terraform was trying to create 3 files, my pet 0, my pet 1, and my pet 2. Okay, but if I'll open this page.txt, here I can find only one file, that is page.txt. Okay, so what is happening is count meta argument can be used, but this is not the proper way to use count equal to 3. I mean, this is not the proper idea or proper best approach to use count blocks. ఎందుకు అంటే override అయిపోతుంది, this is getting override, pet 0, pet 1, pet 2. Okay, so what I want is these file names should also be replicated, అంటే 3 file names ఉండాలి. That's where this count will be able to execute. Okay, so let me check this. I'll share this document with you. Okay, once done with the Terraform, then I'll share this document as well. Okay, so let me create one more file. That is variables.tf. Okay, let me create variables block. One second, guys, I'm getting on call from office. Okay, so we have created one variable block, okay, with the content called file name and the defaults, and the type of variable what I'm using here is list. If you remember the different type of variables, I mean the types of variables can be used. It can be string, numeric, list, map, and tuple, right? So here I am using the type called list. Okay, so now let me change this. How to pass the variable dot file name, but here in this case count dot index we have. Okay, so this is my variable name, variable dot file name, Okay, and then since I'm using count and we have three different files which needs to be created, I'm using count or index. Index means index values. For example, 0, this is one index value. 1 is also index value, 2 is index value, 3 will be index value. Okay, so basically this is a kind of array. Maybe in case what is array and all. So array will start with the number called 0. 0 means first file. For example, if I'm trying to create three files, right? 0 means first file, 1 means second file, 2 means third file. That's how array will work. Okay, so if I try to execute this now, let us check what will happen. Missing item separator. Syntax problem. So let me try to execute now. If I'll give yes, here if you'll see, it should create pet. This is also not working as expected. Destroying complete. Pet 0. No. Local file by pet press.txt. It has been replaced with docs.txt. Okay. Let me check the syntax. I love cats not equal to or 3. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me delete the existing infrastructure first. Okay, I have created the existing infrastructure. So as of now, we don't have any files. Okay, let me use Terraform init first. Okay, and then if I try to execute Terraform apply, because the syntax looks okay. Yes. Now, if you'll see this, here we have got three files. అది ఎందుకు అంతకుముందు ఎర్రర్ వచ్చిందంటే because of the existing infrastructure state file, we were trying to execute one after another examples, right? So mess up అయిపోయింది అది. Okay, so as of now, if I'm trying to create my resource block, if I'm trying to execute my resource block, right? So it is trying to create three files. That is pets.txt, docs.txt, and cats.txt. So if you want to create multiple files, in such cases, we can use count meta argument. Okay, and the variable should be in terms of variable.file name and count.index means count.0. This will check for 0 means pets.txt, 2 means cats.txt, 3 means dot.txt. Okay, so for example, for any some reason, let me remove this. Okay, so we don't have pet.txt now. Okay, so we have deleted pets.txt. Okay, if I'll execute Terraform apply again, okay, here see count index is 2, but count index what we are configuring, or the value what we are passing is 3, but in this file we are able to see only 2. That's the reason it is throwing error. So what we can do is we need to change the count index number as well. I mean, this should also be a static variable, sorry, generic variable, not hard coded. Okay, so now let me change that. Count can be length. So by default, we have one inbuilt function in Terraform, that is length, which will help us to check the length of this file. Okay, check the length of the variable file name. So this is the inbuilt function available in Terraform, which will check the length. Based upon the length, it will get executed, how many files needs to be created. So no need to write any figure over here. Okay, so now we have got the length and we have two files. So if I'm trying to execute Terraform apply, LENGTH, okay, spelling mistake. Okay, so if I'm trying to execute Terraform apply, see what will happen? Pets.txt should be deleted. Okay, in our case, what happened? Destroying my pet 0 page.txt. Okay, this has been executed as expected. So we have only two files, that is called cat.txt and docs.txt. For example, assume that again I am trying to create one more file. Okay. Again I am trying to create one file, that is pets.txt. So if I'll execute this, Terraform apply, sorry, comma. If I try to execute Terraform apply, what will happen? This will again create three files, that is pets.txt, docs.txt, cat.txt. Okay. So for example, now I will try to remove cats.txt, that is index one. Okay. So I have removed one file called cat.txt. If I'm trying to use Terraform apply now, .txt, pets.txt. Okay. So this is also working as expected. So irregular of the case, if you have 10 files, then we can add all the 10 files and the count will be automatically fetched because of the length function. Okay. This is how we can use count argument if you want to create multiple resources. Okay. And here in count, we are using the type, I mean the type what we are using to pass our variable is list type. Okay. So now we have one more meta argument, that is for underscore each. Okay. So for example, same use case, the problem with count is this is executing based upon the index number. If you see the output, there we are able to see index, I mean my pet dot 0 1 2. Okay, so this is trying to execute or identify based upon the index number, not based upon the file number or file name. Okay, this might give us some unwanted results in some cases. Okay, in order to avoid such cases, what we can do is we can use the meta argument called for each meta argument. Okay, so let me copy this for each. Okay, so file name will be each dot value. Okay, and for each the variable will be variable dot file name. Okay, so and then the variable type will be same. Let me use the same variable type. Okay, so now if I try to execute this, okay, now if I'm trying to execute this, I'm not using any content as of now. File name is the only mandatory field required, so I will not be using the content block or content attribute. Okay, so if I use Terraform apply, see what happening, it is throwing some error because no attribute says guys. Okay, let us check. When and only content of local file, window table local file content, pet file name is dot value. Okay, so we are able to see some issues or some errors because of the type of variable. Or else, let me save this. Let me try to execute this again. Okay, so here we are able to see some issues related to our template, I mean variables.tf file. So basically, type or for each meta argument will not support the variable type of list. It should have the type of map. Okay, so we need to change this, or else what we can do is we can change the, we can add one inbuilt function to our uh, for each argument, which will help us to automatically change the format of the variable. So here it should be of type map. not list. Okay. Now if I'll execute this, invalid attribute combination. What happened? Okay, let me get back to the same one. Resource local file, and then file name equal to each value for underscore each with one and only content based is required. What happened?
No.
Yeah.
హలో నా అక్కడ
Hey, bro.
మనం పైన లోకల్ ఫైల్ అని ఇచ్చినాం చూసావా, రిసోర్స్ లోకల్, అక్కడ అది ఆ లైన్ లో తప్పని చూపిస్తుంది. మెయిన్ డాట్ టిఎఫ్ లో పైన రిసోర్స్ ఫైల్ రిసోర్స్ అని ఉంది కదా,
అవును.
అక్కడ ఆ లైన్ లో ఎర్రర్ అని చూపిస్తాం మనకి.
Local file on main dot resource local file pet one resource local file pet no attribute specified when one attribute specified లేదంటుంది, but here we have passed the attribute file name. Maybe because of these blocks. Okay, let me do one thing. Copy paste చేసినా కదా ఏమైంది. ఓకే,
ఓకే,
file name equal to each dot okay. And then what we have
ఫర్ ఈచ్
to
set
అవసరం లేదు variable as of now will not use
where dot file name.
Okay, so now let me try to execute this again. Same error.
నాకు తెలిసి అది ఫైల్ నేమ్ తర్వాత వేర్ డాట్ ఫైల్ నేమ్ ఉండాలి.
ఆ పెట్ట అనేది తీసుకోవట్లేదేమో.
కాంబినేషన్ తప్పని చెప్తుందన్న, అంటే కింది పైకి రావాలి, పైకి కిందికి రావాలేమో. ఫైల్ నేమ్ ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్ టు వేర్ డాట్ ఫైల్ నేమ్ అని, ఫర్ ఈచ్ ఈజ్ ఈక్వల్ టు ఈచ్ డాట్ వాల్యూ అని రావాలి.
Variable dot file name is dot value variable dot file name variable dot file name. Okay, let me check syntax check చేసుకుంటే సరిపోతుంది కదా. For each syntax in Terraform. Okay, for each. So let me add one more content attribute. Let us check. Okay, this is working. Basically ఏమైందంటే కంటెంట్ అనేది కూడా this is also mandatory field. If you see this error, okay, no attribute specified one and only of sensitive underscore content or base 64 underscore comma source is required. And any attribute, basically content is also one of the required attribute for local file. If you remember, in the first session we have seen this. Okay, and it was throwing error. Okay, so now if I'm trying to execute Terraform apply, again it will throw error, because this time, because of the variable dot file name, ante the variables dot tf whatever we are trying to use is not of the format which will be supported by for each meta argument. So basically this should not be in terms of list type. In order to avoid such cases, what we can do is we can use the inbuilt function called toSet. Okay, it will automatically convert this and it will take the file names. Okay, Terraform apply. If I'll do yes, this time this will be able to create two files, that is pet.txt and dos.txt. Okay, if you don't want to use the inbuilt function, then in that case what we can do is we need to define the type. For example, type we have the type called for each we have this for each. Okay, so let me remove this function. There are two ways to resolve these issues. One is by configuring or using the inbuilt function toSet, and another is to define the type of string. If I use Terraform apply, then this will not throw any errors. Okay, and this is also working as expected. Okay, so these are the meta arguments which are available in our Terraform. Okay, how many type of meta arguments do we have? Depends on life cycle, count, and for each. Basically, these are used if you want to create multiple resources with the same block. Okate block toni we are trying to create three local files. Okay, let me copy this as well in your notes. Okay, we have seen the version constraints, how to use the specific version of provider. Okay, now let us try to create our AWS services with the help of Terraform. Okay, so let me clear up this. Let me delete these variables as well. Okay, let me delete my variables and Terraform. Anni delete chestunna because I don't want any other files. Okay, so we have one empty main.tf file. I want to create our AWS resources. Okay, so for example, let me first log into my AWS account. Where is my AWS account? Okay, what's the password? Rx is it will be X. Okay. So this is our AWS account, right? So now let us try to create our AWS resources with the help of Terraform. Endukante as part of our training, as part of interviews, you will be telling that what you have did with the help of Terraform. So we have created AWS services with the help of Terraform. Okay, so that's what we are going to talk in interviews as well. Okay, so now let me try to create one IAM user. Okay, so let me copy this. So initially, I mean, that will be the resource block, and this is the type of provider. Okay, provider and the type, and this is the name what I want to assign. Okay, to Terraform. Okay, and then we have the attribute called name. The name of the user will be Lucy. Okay, and in terms of tags, I will be adding the description as technical team leader. So this is one of the very basic Terraform configuration file to create one IAM user. Okay, so if I save this and if I'll go to my IAM account, if I'll go to my IAM service, ఇవన్నీ మీకు ఎట్లా తెలుస్తాయి which argument needs to be used? Basically from Terraform itself. You can go to the Terraform registry and check the provider name and what are the required parameters what can be used. Okay, మీరు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసే కొద్దీ you will understand what needs to be used. Okay, so if I'll go to my users, as of now, do we have any users? No, we don't have any users. Okay, so now let me try to execute this. Before executing, let me delete my existing credentials. ఎందుకంటే already దీంట్లో credentials save అయినాయి. Okay, so let me delete them. Let me duplicate this. Already I have I mean my credentials has been configured అందుకోసమే this will get passed for the first hit itself. So I want to delete my existing credentials. Okay, so let me deactivate my existing credentials. Okay, let me delete this. Okay, deleted. So now, so we have one IAM user creation template. Okay, so if I am executing Terraform apply, so let us see what will happen. The following dependent selections. Okay, so basically I need to use init because we need to download the plugins. Okay, so let me use Terraform init to download the AWS plugin. Okay, the version of this plugin is 4.58.0. This will take some time. Okay, so plugins has been downloaded successfully. Now if I'll execute Terraform apply, let's see what will happen. It will, this should throw error because of the credentials. Okay, see, configuration Terraform AWS provider validating provider credentials. So the credentials are not available because, okay, whenever we are trying to connect. I mean, whenever I'm trying to execute my resource configuration, so to which AWS account it needs to get connected. Similarly, what we have seen on AWS CLI, right? So we need to pass the AWS secret key and access key. Okay. So in our case, either I can hard code this, in my template, or else hard coding is not the best option, right? So that's the reason what I will do. I will use AWS configure command to pass my access key and secret key, and by default it will pick this pick the credentials and execute my template. Okay, so let me create one credentials, create access key, understood. Okay, copy this, let me copy my access key and then secret key. Okay, and then the region will be US East 1 and the format will be JSON. Okay, done. So we have configured our AWS successfully. Now if I use AWS apply, Terraform apply, this will get connected to my AWS account based upon the credentials what I have passed, and this will create one IAM user called Lucy. Okay, successfully created. If I'll go to my IAM, here I can see one account with the name Lucy has been created. Okay, understood. That's how we can execute our AWS services or resources. Guys, any questions? No. Okay.
అన్న ఇప్పుడు మనం ప్రతిసారి కాన్ఫిగర్ చేయాలా?
లేదు, వన్ టైం యాక్టివిటీ బ్రో. నేను నా దగ్గర ఆల్రెడీ కాన్ఫిగర్ అయి ఉంటే అది నేను ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తే హిట్ అయిపోద్ది, మళ్ళీ మీకు ఎర్రర్ వస్తుంది, అప్పుడు కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అయిపోతారని నేను మళ్ళీ అది డిలీట్ చేసిన ఉన్నది. That's only one time activity. Basically, this is one of the best approaches in order to hide our credentials. ఇక్కడ పాస్ చేసినాం అనుకో హార్డ్ కోడెడ్ లో, what will happen, anyone can see this. I mean, if you are storing your main.tf and statefile in the central repository, ఎవరైనా చూడొచ్చు, and they can access your account with the help of CLI. Okay, so that's not the best approach. That's the reason what I have did, I have used AWS configure to store my credentials in my local machine. ఇది నా local machine వరకే ఉన్నాయి. Okay, the moment I will execute Terraform, then what Terraform will do, Terraform will use that existing credentials and connect to my account. That's what Terraform will understand to which account this needs to be connected. Okay.
Okay.
So now we have got our user. Next, what we need to do is we need to create or attach one policy. First is we need to create one admin policy. Okay, I want to create one admin policy and attach to my user called Lucy. Okay, as of now, if I click this, okay, do we have any policies attached? No. Okay, there are no policies attached to the user called Lucy. So what I want to do is I want to create one admin role. I want to attach the admin policy to my user called Lucy. Okay, so for that, let me use the script. Okay, I have already configured the script, so let me use the existing script and explain you. Okay, if I'll open this, so we have 3 resource blocks. Okay, so out of this script we have 3 resource blocks. First resource block is to create a user called Lucy and configure, I mean the description. If you see this tags, okay, here you can find the description as technical team lead. Okay, so in first resource block, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create one user called Lucy, and in second technical resource block, I'm trying to create one policy with the name called admin users, and the policy should be in terms of JSON. If you remember, in AWS we have JSON templates. Okay, the policy to create, I mean whatever policy we want to attach to the user, that will be in terms of JSON. So we have two ways. Either I can integrate that within my script, okay, I can configure that within my script, or I can pass with a separate file. So in this example, what I'm doing, I'm passing the complete script within my complete policy within my script. Okay, so basically I'm using this. If I'll close this, okay, so our resource block will looks in this way. Name will be admin users, and policy I am attaching my JSON format policy. Okay, so here this type of script is called as here doc syntax. So this syntax is called as here doc syntax. In this way we can inbuilt our scripts, whether for bash scripting aina kavochu, whether for Terraform, whether for Ansible, for any automation tool. If you want to create or inbuild any of the scripts, then we can use the here doc syntax. Okay, the below syntax is called as here doc syntax, which will start with the double redirections and with a delimiter. This is called as delimiter. Okay, this is nothing but a common syntax. Okay, EOF, generally what we will be seeing, EOF means end of file. Okay, and this is our script from starting to end, I mean the JSON format file to create any policy. Okay, and then EOF means end of file again. Okay, so this is the start and this is the end. Okay, so we'll be using the same one in our template. Okay, once this is done, then what I'm doing, I'm trying to use I'm trying to configure the user. Okay, so I want to attach that policy to this particular user, right? So this is my user provider, and this is for the user called Lucy. Okay, username I'm trying to fetch from the policies itself, AWS_IAM user.admin-user.name. So here it will display username as Lucy, and the policy ARN will be basically from this resource. Okay, so once this is done, now let me try to execute Terraform apply. If you want, we can use plan as well. Plan we can see. Okay, so if you see this, admin user has been created, policy has been attached. Okay, created and attached. If I'll open this, if I'll refresh, we have one user called Lucy. If I'll open this, as of now, no policies has been attached. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me first destroy the existing user. Let me first destroy. Okay. Let me first destroy and then try to create again. Okay, 3 resources has been destroyed. So let me create Terraform apply again. If I'll do yes, what will happen? If I'll refresh, here see we have one user called Lucy and one policy called admin users has been attached to our user called Lucy. Okay, that's what we were planning to do. Okay, so if you don't want to integrate your JSON file within your resource template, in that case what we can do is we can create one more file with admin-policy.json, any name. Okay, paste that JSON format within that file. Okay, and within your resource file we need to call that file with the inbuilt function called file. Okay, and then this admin policy.json, whatever we have written over here, that will be applicable to our resource. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, hope this is clear. Guys, let me know if you have any questions for now.
నా ఇప్పుడు అడ్మిన్ అది జేసన్ ఫైల్ ఫార్మాట్ లో రాసాం కదా, అది ప్రతిదానికి రాస్తామా అలాగా? ప్రతి మన అంటే పాలసీ
ప్రతి పాలసీకి రాయాల్సి వస్తుంది నీకు.
ఓకే, మన ఎన్ని పాలసీస్ కావాలంటే అన్ని పాలసీస్ కల్లా జేసన్ ఫార్మాట్ రాస్తాం
అంతే. ఎందుకంటే పాలసీ అటాచ్ మనం చేయాల్సిందే కదా, వితౌట్ పాలసీ వి కాంట్ రైట్. ఓకే
ఓకే అండి.
అన్న అది జేసన్ ఫార్మాట్ డైరెక్ట్ కన్సోల్లో దొరుకుతుందా మనకు?
దొరుకుతుంది.
ఓకే ఓకే.
Okay, I will share this document. Okay, ఈ డాక్యుమెంట్ షేర్ చేస్తాను. ఆల్రెడీ పేస్ట్ అయిపోయిందా ఇప్పుడే? పాతది కదా ఇది. ఓకే, ఐ విల్ షేర్ దిస్ డాక్యుమెంట్, ఐ మీన్ నోట్స్. మీరు ఏం చేయాలంటే ఫర్ నౌ ఫస్ట్ ఏం చేయాలంటే ఫస్ట్ థింగ్ ఈజ్ వాచ్ ద వీడియో. ఓకే, అండ్ ట్రై టు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ డేటా రిసోర్సెస్ అండ్ మెటా ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ as well as provider constraints, version constraints. Okay, so try to execute that and then try to create some AWS services. I will list out some AWS services. Try to create Terraform templates and work on it. As of now, our Jira is also suspended, right? So Jira is not working and it will not be renewed. That is not required. So we have done enough of ticketing. So what I want you guys to do is whatever you have did, everything, I mean all the screenshots should be pasted in the status channel. Okay, ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయి ఈ రోజుకి సెషన్లో, దెన్ లెట్ మీ నో. ఇఫ్ నాట్ దెన్ వీ కెన్ గో అండ్ అప్. సో లెట్ మీ స్టాప్ ద రికార్డింగ్.